Hey everyone, Leo's here, and I just don't like an episode. I have Martin here with me to talk to me about CloudCasa and the good things that they're doing with Arc-enabled Kubernetes. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, Leo's here, and I just don't like an episode. I have Martin here with me. Martin, how you doing, my friend?
Good, Leo. Thanks for having me on the show.
Excited to have you, Martin. You're joining us here from CloudCasa, which I'm familiar with, but I wasn't familiar with the new solutions that you guys are coming up with the context of Arc-enabled Kubernetes. But before we go and nerd out on all those good things, Martin, who you are, what is it that you do?
Yep, appreciate it. So my name is Martin Fahn. I'm a field CTO here at CloudCasa, and so I mainly do a lot of product demonstrations, a lot of these videos, and looking forward to telling you more about what we do from an Arc-enabled Kubernetes platform.
Definitely. Martin, recently we see a lot of engagement with with ISVs like yourself. We see a lot of ISVs coming into the marketplace and having these type of tight integrations with Arc-enabled Kubernetes, which is awesome to see. We had previous guests on the show, and today I'm excited to talk to you about this because the field of backup and restore of Kubernetes workloads or migrating workloads, stuff like that, again, in the world of Kubernetes, is something that is a bit ambiguous. Like, not a lot of people are familiar with these concepts of backup and restore in a Kubernetes universe. So we're here to talk about that today. So what are the good things that you guys are doing?
So for the past several years now, we've been actually working on a Kubernetes data protection platform. We've been a data protection company for almost 30 years now, and we've developed a Kubernetes data protection platform that we've has evolved into a migration platform, if you will, at this point. So not only does it do backup and restore, but it can do and help you with migrations. It can help with replications, keeping clusters in sync, whether they be in the cloud or on the edge, on-prem, etc. So this is something that we're pretty proud about. We'd like to show you some of the capabilities that CloudCasa has to offer in terms of getting or moving around your Kubernetes clusters, regardless of where they reside.
For sure. I always love me some good diagrams. So show me the magic. How
Yeah,
everything is working.
Yeah, so I'll just start off with the obligatory solution architecture overview slide here, and it's pretty simple, actually. We have a software as a service platform called CloudCasa that runs in the cloud. You can also self-host it as well, and that's over here on the right-hand side. But what we're essentially doing is we're communicating with those clusters, either cloud AKS clusters, Arc-enabled edge clusters, or clusters on-prem through other service providers. And all we're simply doing is we're protecting those clusters, taking snapshots of them through our CloudCasa service, and then backing them up to storage locations of your choosing. So by default, we can back up to Azure blob storage or any S3 compatible object storage in that respect. A lot of this has now evolved from a backup and restore story to more of a migration story. How can I get my cluster from on-prem to AKS, or how can I keep my edge clusters replicated to some central cloud-based location? And this is where CloudCasa can really help simplify those movements and allow an easy button, if you will, to moving and migrating those clusters around.
Mm-hmm. The nice thing about what I'm seeing, and this is kind of this is the interesting piece about this ISV like yourself that are coming to the marketplace and starting to develop their solutions against Arc-enabled Kubernetes cluster, is the ease of deployment of the solution itself. When we talk about Arc-enabled Kubernetes, we always talk about, first of all, we're talking about inventory management, right? At the very fundamental basic level, we talk about inventory management. But, this is just means to an end. And, throughout the years with Arc-enabled Kubernetes, the biggest challenge was how do we actually bring solutions to those Arc-enabled Kubernetes clusters so people can enjoy these solutions. And, now starting to see, again, solutions like CloudCasa coming into the marketplace, so you'll be able to deploy the solution on an Arc-enabled Kubernetes cluster and do all the good things that you guys are doing. That's money. That's a very important capability for us to have. So I'm excited to see that. So, Show me. I know that you have some more architecture stuff to show me, like how everything is actually connected there. Like I'm trying to understand the replication mechanism that you guys are having there.
Yeah, so essentially it's just a backbone store, as I talked about earlier. But if we really dig down into the details of what we're backing up and what we're collecting, right? This is just from a perspective of AKS. We're collecting all the metadata on the cluster, and this is true for any clusters that we're dealing with. By doing that inventory of what's out there in your cluster, the networking configuration, the storage configuration of it, we're backing up this metadata. We're also snapshotting your persistent volume storage, the CSI snapshots, and offloading that to blob storage. Essentially, we're capturing the current state of the cluster that's going to allow us to perform our migration and recovery. And this is what allows us to do things like a full stack, or what we call an any to cloud restore, where we can build a cluster for you on the fly in AKS. And that's something that if you're looking for that easy button for, hey, how do I get my cluster from this cloud to this to AKS, or from the edge, and keep a replicated cluster within my cloud AKS, this is the type of information that we're capturing in order to allow us to perform that level of granularity migration.
So I know that you also, Martin, have a cool demo to show me. Before you do that, share with me and the viewers for a second, like what are the interesting, some of the interesting use cases that you've seen out there in the wild for people using this type of solution? Like for what type of, backup and restore and migration efforts that they're using this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So initially it was back and restore when we first had started out, but I think a lot of folks now are moving more towards a migration use case, right? I want to move between clouds. I want to move between even cloud accounts or storage providers, specifically with Microsoft and AKS. I want to move between different SKUs of my Kubernetes distribution, right? So AKS was first based off Ubuntu, and now users are moving to Azure Linux. How do we get that to Azure Linux, or how do we create a new cluster on the fly and deploy it in Azure Linux SKU versus an Ubuntu SKU? And also at the same time, how do I switch up my storage classes? Let's say I'm using managed CSI. I want to use Azure Container Store or some other Azure file store. Just taking advantage of all the different storage services that Microsoft has to offer. These are just some of the things that we can do very easily through a wizard, and just by communicating with the Azure portal or Azure services. So before I kick off with the demo here, I just want to show you the Azure portal, right? And let you know that if you are running clusters in Azure today, or Arc-enabled clusters in Azure, this would be, we're actually in the marketplace here. If you click on your marketplace icon and go to search for CloudCasa, you can see that we have an agent for Cloud AKS, for backup and recovery, as well as Azure Arc clusters as well. And just a different agent from in terms of deployment. What's going to happen here is once you deploy that agent within your cluster, we're going to be able to communicate to that agent through our CloudCasa dashboard or a service. And here is our CloudCasa dashboard service. That agent registers itself with CloudCasa. This is where all the magic happens from the dashboard. You can also manage your backup, restore, migration definitions through here as well. And the very first thing that we can do here is just jump into the configuration tab, where you would have had your clusters, your cloud accounts already scanned in here. Even if you don't have a cloud account scanned in, we're able to just simply add a cloud account here, specify the type of cloud that we're communicating with. And what's going to happen is we're going to install that Azure Resource Management template there to allow our CloudCasa service to interact with some of the Azure services running within your account or your profile. And as part of that, we're going to be able to detect all the underlying clusters that are being managed by Azure. These are Kubernetes clusters. We're going to be able to communicate with the storage devices, and any clusters that are out here that we would like to back up or migrate or restore to. All we simply need to do is click on those clusters here and simply install an agent to those clusters if one array hasn't been defined, right? So we have our automatic installation, we have the installation through the marketplace, we have manual installations through Helm charts or kubectl commands. But this is what's going to allow that CloudCasa server to communicate with the cluster itself.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because like this space is a space that you would think, who's really innovating in that space. And apparently, there is an innovation in this space. Cloud migrations is something that people are usually thinking in the context of, either on premises to the cloud or, virtual machines migrations between different clouds. But the notion of migrating between Kubernetes clusters across clouds or also from the edge to the cloud is a space that, in my opinion, it's a bit of an uncharted territory. So I really like to see this type of solution coming to life and now available as part of the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it really reduces that reliability on vendor lock, right? So it's kind of
Yep.
like you have let's say you're wanting on-prem and you need to grow and scale to something like AKS. This is kind of that easy button to do that, right? And really, it literally boils down to a backup and restore or migration process from which we can do just by adding those agents into your clusters and having CloudCasa manage them, right? So
Yeah.
from a backup perspective, right, you can define backups here. Tell us what you want to back up, right? So I have, let's say, a local cluster that I want to back up from a different cloud provider. I can set up what I want to back up in terms of namespaces or backing up the full cluster. Remember, we're capturing all the attributes and metadata for that cluster so that when we go to recreate it on the fly, we can restore it with the exact same attributes or as close as we can get to the destination cluster as we want to. We have the ability to support databases through pre-backup and post-backup application hooks. These are just scripts that will run within your containers to ensure that we're capturing a application consistent CSI snapshot. We're able to schedule, and then you're just defining a backup job to run at this point. And with so that's a backup, and obviously with restore, we're able to perform a restore. Let's say I want to do this full stack recovery here of one cluster to AKS. I can just simply run that full stack restore here, and I'm just going to go ahead and kick this off now. So when I take you through the restore options, you can see how simple this is to perform the restore. But in this case, if I want to define a restore or even a migration, which is just simply a backup immediately followed by restore, I can select the cluster I want to migrate. Let's say I had a local cluster here or a cluster running in another cloud. I can select that cluster to be migrated over or select certain namespaces from the cluster to be migrated over here to a different cluster of my choosing. And with full stack recovery, I said we're able to create a new cluster on the fly for you. So I want to create this cluster in AKS in that demo account that I registered with CloudCasa. And I would just need to provide the parameters of my cluster name, my resource groups, regions and this is all coming from Azure, right? The inventory that I did of that Azure Cloud account. I can even choose the Kubernetes version if I want to kind of migrate between versions here and specify some client and secret ID that can connect to that cluster, choose networking. So it's literally, it's like I'm in the Azure portal creating the VM or creating the cluster directly within Azure. Only this time I'm just creating it within CloudCasa and defining it as a restore job that I can run on a repeated basis here. And this is kind of where I can select the different operating system SKUs. I can determine the size of my node pool, what VMs are running on it. So that restore job that I just kicked off is a full stack restore, which means that I've backed up this cluster and now I'm trying to recover it or restore it to AKS with a full stack recovery. So you can see here that a new cluster is being created. And this is just a cluster restore that I've kicked off. Right now it's in that creating state. And it's going to take all those options and operations that I set within my restore or migration job definition to rebuild that cluster for me on the fly. And this is what's going to allow me to have that standby copy or that offsite copy, or even in terms of edge clusters, right, where I'm just trying to replicate and keep a data copy within sync. That's just a different type of job, a replication job within CloudCasa, right? So we have kind of the bases covered with regards to moving data and clusters and applications to where you want them to be.
Yeah, I like it. I think that, again, like I mentioned, this is a space that I'm really excited to see some innovation in that space, and I like the ease of migration. I'm also looking forward to see more of the innovation coming from CloudCasa, and specifically with with the Arc-enabled Kubernetes portion. So now you guys are available in our marketplace for Arc-enabled Kubernetes. So that's awesome. Martin, I want to say thank you for joining me for this episode. Appreciate you coming to the show. And for the Jumpstart viewers, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe. We're going to see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.